My General Tso's chicken recipe went crazy on Instagram and Pinterest, and you guys are gonna absolutely love making this at home, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll grab a large bowl just to give us plenty of room for whisking, and we'll start with a half cup of cornstarch and a half cup of self-rising flour. I shot this the wrong way, so sorry they're sideways. We use equal parts of the flour and the cornstarch, so if you wanna easily double this recipe, just do 1 cup of each. Then we'll add 1 cup of filtered water. I don't know why I decided to add it slowly like this. It only makes it actually harder to stir, so just pour it like a normal person. And then we'll whisk it together until it's nice and smooth and there's no more clumps of batter remaining. All right, to this batter, we're gonna add 1.5 pounds of chicken. I always prefer chicken breast, and for this recipe, I actually use tenderloins and then just cut them into chunks, but you can use thighs as well. A lot of people prefer chicken thighs. I'm just kind of a chicken breast person, but thighs work great too. I know this batter is a lot more like thin and liquidy than we're used to seeing in like a fried chicken batter, but the self-rising flour is what really helps it to puff up once it hits the oil. We're now ready to fry, so we'll get our oil heated in a heavy bottom pot to about 360 degrees, and we'll start frying. We will work quickly in this first batch of adding chicken chunks, just one by one. I always use a skimmer to kind of agitate the oil so they don't fry stuck together. And it's good to do that after the first few seconds of them getting in the oil. I always leave a skimmer nearby to scoop out the chicken in like larger portions. When you're ready to get it out of the oil, you can get all the pieces, in a big swoop. So I love this tool. All right, so we're gonna let these babies cook for about 3 to 4 minutes. Then we're gonna remove them, put them onto a cooling rack, and give them a minute to rest. Then we'll be giving them a second dunk in the hot oil for 1 additional minute. This step of double frying makes any chicken recipe extra crispy. And of course, extra crispy chicken is exactly what we want for this recipe, or in any case where we're gonna be coating it in sauce so it can really hold up to all that moisture. And back in goes the chicken for another minute. I always prefer to drain my fried foods on a cooling rack directly and not on paper towels. I actually find that it's less successful in maintaining that crunch factor. Whenever hot food sits on paper towels, it actually holds in all that moisture against the breading, and it always results in sogginess or the breading pulling away from the chicken, which we do not want. Okay, so into a skillet over medium heat, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of either peanut or vegetable oil. Once it gets nice and hot, we'll add 3 cloves of minced garlic, 2 teaspoons of minced ginger, and about a tablespoon of red pepper flakes. Then we're gonna saute for about 30 seconds or until the garlic becomes super fragrant. And it's really important to make sure your garlic doesn't burn, because it will get really bitter, and honestly, you'll have to just toss this and start over. So just make sure you keep an eye on your garlic. I love to use chilies and oil and the whole dried chili peppers for this recipe, but since they're not very easy to find for everybody, for the sake of convenience, I just used the red pepper flakes for this recipe. But if you have those, or if you know where to get them locally, definitely add those instead of red pepper flakes because they're much more authentic. And now we'll pour in our stir fry sauce, which is a combination of soy sauce, hoisin, brown sugar, and a few other delicious ingredients. I'll be sure to leave the full detailed recipe in the description below. So we'll keep this sauce on a medium heat until it comes to a low boil, and then we're gonna reduce it to simmer and allow the sauce time to thicken up a bit, which I think took me about 5 to 7 minutes. And I always do a taste test of the sauce to make sure it's perfect. Sometimes it'll need a tad more brown sugar or a little more spice. I mean, everyone's palate is slightly different, so you may want to adjust it to your liking, but this recipe should be pretty spot on to a perfect General Tso's. So for my taste, I wanted to add a little bit more brown sugar and just a tad more spice. So I'm adding some more chili paste, some more red pepper flakes, and a little brown sugar, which I realize sounds like it's balancing itself out, but cooking is really more of an art than like an exact science anyway. So I feel like based on my mood, my exact measurements for any recipe I make usually change slightly every time I make the dish. So as you can see, this is starting to thicken up really nice. So let's go ahead and get the chicken out of the oven and we'll start to toss it in our sauce. But be sure you only toss the amount of chicken that you actually want to serve right now, because I like to keep the sauce and the chicken separate until right before I'm about to serve this dish. So if I have any leftovers, we'll keep them separate in the fridge so that the breading doesn't get mushy overnight. So at this point, if I'm serving this over rice, I would want that to already be done before I sit here and toss my chicken in the sauce. So we'll get this chicken plated over some steamed white rice that I cooked with chicken broth and butter, and we'll pour over some of the extra General Tso sauce just to give that rice even more flavor and juiciness. And we are ready to finally eat and enjoy all of our hard work. Just look at how tender that chicken is. It just breaks apart with a fork. You guys are going to adore this recipe. In the description, I'll leave the link to this detailed printable recipe that's available on my blog at badbatchbaking.com. Make sure to like and subscribe so that you can be notified when I post a new recipe video every week.